You got to write this down. Hey, Pace, I'm open to lending money to you, but I have a dozen other options that I could go with right now. Tell me why I should give you my money instead of giving these other people my money. You're going to do deals, obviously, but then you also are talking to people about potentially getting involved in some of their deals through lending.
Yeah. So my dilemma at the moment is, I guess it's not a huge dilemma, but I have money.
How much money do you have?
So I have $250K in a CD at 4.8%. And then I have a second CD for $250K at 4.8%. So off of just the $500,000 sitting in CDs, I'm going to make $24K in a year.
Yeah.
And so considering having it sit somewhere, I feel like it's doing great. Long term, I'd rather put it somewhere. That's why I've been, I've been throwing spaghetti on the wall trying to figure out real estate too. This isn't my rodeo with it.
Well, this is way better than a phone call then. This is great. So, Caleb reached out to me. He's like, hey, can you vouch for me? And I said, first and foremost, I don't vouch for anybody when it comes to money. Like, I wouldn't vouch for my own grandmother. I wouldn't vouch for my own wife. I wouldn't vouch for anybody, because giving somebody a recommendation to go lend money to somebody else is a horrible business practice, because I have no control of the deal. I have no benefit in the deal. For example, people will come to me and say, hey, I want to loan money to this person. What do you think? Will you vouch for me? And I'm like, oh man, I sponsor deals. So people come to me and they say, Pace, this is one of the Gator strategies that I have. It's one of the 5 ways to be a Gator lender. I don't know if you know anything about Gator lending, but it's like you're in and you're out, or you're using a resource that's not necessarily your resource, like money. Like people come to me and go, hey, will you do this deal? I go, yeah, I'll do that deal, but I'm not going to use my money to lend. I'm going to go get 3 or 4 people. We're going to pool money together and I'll put the deal together financially and I'll get a slice of that. That's basically Gator lending. Also doing it with earnest money and small chunks of money and stuff like that. But one of the strategies is people come to me and go, I want to do a fix and flip, but I was turned down by my fix and flip lender because I don't have any experience. Can I borrow your experience on my application, which is me sponsoring them, right? Like using my name, my credibility as a way for them to get a loan. I will do that. But guess what? When the property gets purchased, everything is in my name. I own the property. My name is on the deed. I'm in full control of the asset, because if you go over budget or something bad happens, I get to take that asset back, not because I'm foreclosing on you, because you never owned it in the first place. I control the asset entirely. Where I'm headed with lending, and where I wanted you to take notes, and it sounds like you might even already be taking notes, is you have to be so secure in every single deal that you do. I have a good buddy of mine, his entire business is lending. His license plate says loan to own. And if you write that down and you know what that means, you will become a good lender. You loan money to somebody, plan on owning that asset and plan on them failing, and your documentation and the way you structure the deal. And when they fail, inevitably you will have people that, if you ever lend money to anybody and you make it a business, you will have people default. One of my greatest friends in the last 5 years, a couple of years ago, asked me for a $250,000 60-day loan. Well, guess what? I got 170,000 of it 2 days ago. After 2 years of lending to him, it soured the entire relationship because I didn't set up the expectations properly. I thought, oh, it's a friend of mine, I'll hook him up. And he, I've known him. He operates business. Took advantage of me. He paid off other lenders before he paid me. And guess what I failed to do? Even though I'm teaching you the opposite, I failed to put myself in a position of control where I could take an asset in return. Let's say his name's Pete. So Pete comes to me and goes, hey, I need 250 to work on my primary residence. I go, cool. Can I put a lien against the property, and can we change the ownership of the property to me until you refinance me out? He says, well, no, I can't, because the way the loan is going to work, I can't put you on that deal. I go, well, I can't give you $250,000 until I can put a lien on something. So he goes, no problem. I got a ton of assets, but I need the money this week. First mistake, I send the money to him. And for a year and a half, I was following up with him saying, bro, when can I get a lien on another property? When can I get a lien on another property? Oh, I sold that one. I'm refinancing this one. See, it was like that. And in my busy world, the first 2 or 3 months, it wasn't a big deal, because I'm like, oh yeah, he's good for it. He's good for it. When it got to 6 months where I hadn't put any liens, I was like, this is a problem. I had to get Molly on it. I was so busy, I didn't even check in with him for maybe every other month. I'd go, hey, Pete, what's going on with this, man? Now, the benefit, Jill, is that he was sending me a monthly payment of $2,500. Here's a horror story. This was actually a student, but I structured it the right way. So I had a student comes to me in Denver, Colorado. Hey, Pace, I want to do a flip. I go, okay, no problem. Here's where my mistake was. So I was making money. So in his mind, this is what's funny about the person borrowing from you. They think they are doing you a favor. If you don't set up the paperwork and the expectation up front, they think they're doing you a favor. Have you ever done something really nice for somebody and somehow it turns around and you look like
You're literally telling a story that I'm like, we're just too nice of people. We trust people too
because
much.
you operate a certain way and you assume everybody else operates the same way.
Yeah.
And like literally nobody else does. So I tell people, I go, look, trust, but verify with documentation. So for example, that whole story with Pete, I had to make up this fake story where I was like, bro, just so you know, that $250,000 needs to come to me by the end of 2022, going into 2023. If I don't have that money, there's an asset I have to close on. And if I don't close on that asset, it's going to cost me $50,000 in fees and this and that and blah, blah, blah. I had to conjure up this fake bullcrap story to apply pressure to this human being because I didn't have things documented and leaned properly. And now because I'm applying pressure to a guy who's held my money for 2 years, he's then like, what's the big deal? Why? And I'm like, here we go. You told me you needed the money for 90 days. Here we are now 2 years later, and you're asking me what the big deal is. You and I could both list off 50 times this has happened to us in our lives.
I wrote this email this week.
Yeah, here we go. Right. So like nice people like you and I that are generous and we just want people to be our friends. And we assume that when I give you $250,000, I'm the greatest gift in your life right now because I solved a problem that nobody else could solve. But somehow, some way, it's like the man in the desert that was about to die. He prays to God and he says, I need to find water. I will never do anything bad in my life ever again. Please, I need to find water. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Somehow, some way, it starts raining. And he looks up at God. He goes, oh, never mind, God. I don't need water anymore. It started raining. And he basically doesn't realize and recognize that God actually made it rain for him. That there was an answer to his prayer. And instead, he then goes back to doing horrible things to people in a horrible way. And he never actually is like, dude, that's how God answered your prayer. Right. So
yeah,
that happens when you do favors for people and when you don't document things properly and when you're not an ass up front. You have to be a horrible human being up front because then for the rest of the duration of that loan, these people are incredibly grateful because they were reminded up front. It's horrible, but you kind of have to rub their face in it in the very beginning. You have to go, just so you know, let's say you're going to lend to me, for example, Jill, you would always say, you've got to write this down. Hey, Pace, I'm open to lending money to you, but I have a dozen other options that I could go with right now. In fact, I'm missing phone calls. I'm missing emails from them all, but I'm on the phone with you because I want to do business with you. Tell me why I should give you my money instead of giving these other people my money. Very important to get that and get it in writing, right? Write it in an email, document all these things. Very, very important because it's not even the protection of the money. Obviously, that's very important, but it's also the protection of the relationship and your reputation. What's funny about this Pete guy on December 30th, I'm like, bro, I need an update. You said you've got the money coming in. He's like, yeah, the wire's coming, but it won't get there till the 1st. And I'm like, bro, I told you I'm gonna have $50,000 in fees. And he just goes ghost. So their answer when they're not paying you is just to go ghost. I'm sure you're dealing with this on your situation right now. They just ghost you. They're not communicating with you. They make you feel like you're doing something wrong.
And they think, well, isn't it a gift? Jill, you have a lot of money.
Hey, so you have a lot of money.
Jill. And I'm like, because it's my money and it's a principle.
Here's the other thing. This is a great piece of advice for you. Just FYI. When people tell me that they need a loan, like I have somebody asking me for a loan this morning of $800,000. I always tell them, I don't have any money, but I could help you find the money. So even your money, Jill, should never be your money. Even if it is your money, you never tell people it's your money. Just say, I represent somebody who has money and I can help you get the money, but I need to make sure these things are documented. And by the way, Jill, this is a really smart thing for you. I would charge a funding fee up front to say, hey, I'm the representative of this Jill Jensen person. Obviously, it's a different person. It's an LLC or something you create. I would create an LLC that lends money, but I need a funding fee. So when I fund the deal to you, $200,000, I need 2 points up front. So they give you $4,000 for that loan, for the paperwork, the time you spent, the relationship connection, et cetera. And then you say, I'm the representative of this person. If you screw me, you've now ruined my entire relationship and my business model. Never tell people it's your money.